Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leader of the Heart podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, one of my good friends, Baptiste Porzier, a fellow Frenchman like me. We met way back, not way back, just a few years ago when we were living in Hong Kong and South China in e-commerce, heavily involved, an e-commerce veteran, and a lot to share, a lot to talk. We had a wonderful chat catching up just now, and he has one of the most inspiring and powerful journeys in life, tremendous message to share. So I'm super happy and honored to have him here with us. So Baptiste, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey guys, hi Payman. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here. And thanks for the intro. Wow.
Well, very welcome.
Too much.
Very welcome. Now there's so much that I could have said, but I didn't want to butcher or destroy anything. I will let you say that because there's so much that we can unpack. We can do an entire season, me and you, because you've been blessed with a tremendous path in life and lessons and stories and all that we can do an entire podcast, just me and you. But we'll see how far we get today, and then we'll take it one step at a time. So Baptiste, as I told you just before starting, the kind of conversation I like to have on my podcast is to look under the hood, so to speak, to see what's in your heart, to have a heart-to-heart conversation, hence the name Leaders with a Heart, because, business happens at a human level basis. When you're looking for an expert to do business with, sure, they all qualify, they all have the credentials, but the person you're going to select with is the one you get along the most as a human being, because if you don't connect with them as a person, the credentials won't even matter. So are you ready, my friend, to get started?
For sure.
All right.
Let's do it.
So for people who don't know you, tell us. We're going to talk about your business in a moment, but as a person, as a human being, who is Baptiste?
Yeah, so I'm Baptiste Porzier. I was born in France in 1980, right? And in Paris. I've got a cultural heritage from Brittany. So it's right across the channel from the UK. And so Celtic, for those that don't know. And yeah, so, that's who I am in a nutshell. Then I guess I could start with school. I wasn't very attentive at school, very, hard to focus. And I was quite talented. So not trying to say I'm clever or anything, but I could dodge learning and still have good grades up until a certain stage, relying on talent only. And but that came to an end. My parents divorced, and it was a bit of something that just really posed a lot of problems in my young life. And so I couldn't really understand why I was feeling so guilty, right? And but I carried that trying to exist through bad deeds. So I was always the guy in the classroom trying to take the attention, trying to invent crazy stuff so that people would laugh, or just being a rebellious scholar, so basically I would exist, right? Because when I was going back home, I would wonder why my parents separated, why they would not love me, etc. So I think very early with this incident, I cultivated a victim mindset, and my family were never poor, but never really like middle class rich like some of my friends. And so I guess it's always been comfortable at home, or comfortable to listen and not explore too wide, but also always been in that rebellious mindset, so that I would exclude myself from what was, my norm, if you want. So without boring too many people about stories that far in the past, the reason I'm explaining this is because I left school very early. I dropped out. I was 16, and I needed to do something. And so I traded my freedom for one of those motorbikes. That was kind of the price for going and learn a trade. And so someone said, hey, you're quite creative, so you should try something like cooking. I did try. I didn't like it at all. But I had a scooter. I was doomed because I had accepted the price. So for lack of better strategy, I went and learned how to cook, and I was 16 years old. So that didn't go very well. That whole disciplined atmosphere in France, cooking is very serious, probably like in Japan. And so, yeah, you know, I keep changing restaurant after restaurant, school after school, because I was going to both. I think within 5 years, I must have done 36 companies.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so some of them were like very high level, like Michelin star restaurant, where I truly saw an amazing way of cooking, amazing products, amazing recipe. And you know, because I always loved quality, that was something I could connect with. However, the fact that I couldn't bring my piece to the whole, or the fact that I couldn't, you know, question some of the things that were done, and why, you know, if I found a technique that would pretty much bring the same results with practice, definitely just as good or better, why I was barred from the institution, and you know, my peers. Some people would say, hey, you know, this guy's got amazing career, and out of the sudden you want to replace the recipe, you want to replace the gesture. Who the heck you think you are, you know? And I always hated that, because for me it's all about the result. It doesn't matter who you are. It's just a matter of what you can bring, and what's your value, and, you know, work as a team. So this kind of how it was when I was younger in the workplace. So very quickly I was you know, failing that as well, and I moved from very high level Michelin star restaurant to maybe more traditional brasseries, and I hated it, of course, because then the quality was not as much, the passion was not there. It's just workers coming. And the subject of this discussion were not interesting. You know, it's all about like, what's the football team result this week, or you know, what's the new video game and stuff like that. And I never really was able to connect with the people of my age doing that. Anyway, I must have been 27. So during this time, I actually went over to the UK. I wanted to learn a new language. So the UK being so close to Paris, I went over there for 4 or 5 years, lived in London, and find a good spot where I was like comfortable. I found a guy that was doing a nice cuisine, that like father figure, which was missing, obviously. And, you know, even though I was being paid like peebles, it was kind of a balance that I would accept. So I stayed there for a while. And when I came back to France, it's been horrible. All the codes of France, the family codes, the society codes, the workplace codes, you know, just sort of rushed back to me, and I was just not prepared for that. So it took me like 2 or 3 years to learn again, and I was just not happy. So I was like, okay, this is it. I just, you know, life's got to be more than this, right? And I went in for opening a restaurant. I was 28, you know, and I opened a restaurant with my brother. We, you know, we did like incredible redecoration to a place we bought a place, did the redecoration, did the whole menu. It was just him and me, and we worked very hard, and we were busy. But again, you know, like my sort of attitude, my victim mindset, and etc., have pushed me to fail that as well. So we were busy, but with my brother, we didn't get along. Off of that, you know, I took like 2 or 3 years off. I became a barman. I just wanted to have fun, not as much responsibility. So I sold my share to him. And you know, after the being a barman, I was like, okay, I'm just going to use my money and you know, buy a bar. So I bought a new business, went into that, and I was packed. I was packed every night. I would make events. And you know what? This is how I learned actually marketing on Facebook. I used social media because the place where I was, in the neighborhood where I was, it was a very popular neighborhood, but the place that there was just no passage whatsoever. And so I needed people to come.
Where was that? Was that in Paris?
Yeah, it was in Montmartre in
Oh,
Paris.
wow. Yeah. Big time,
Yeah.
yes.
And so I used social media. At the time, it's crazy. I had a friend that came with a code, like, you know, a code. And that code will allowing you to reach out to all your friends in one message. And so you would, you know, blast a broadcast message to all of your list at once. And that coupled with the very early version of Facebook ad, which was in the margin on the right-hand side, you know, those were the days of the crazy, what's it called, like Farmville, you know, this type of crazy times where Facebook was just like still in its infancy, right? And you could do a lot of things. So I leveraged that, and that's how I started.
It was so cheap to run ads back then. Oh man, oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, yeah.
Like pennies, literally, yeah.
Yeah, crazy. I don't remember exactly how much, but it's just fun. It was just really crazy. And so every time I would do a theme for a night, people would come from across the city and just attend. So I was packed every night, and it was a great success. A lot of people around me and the neighboring commerce people were telling me, like, this place has never been so full. Well done. The only problem is I was not yet a businessman, and you know, whether it was processes, discipline,
counting,
you know, yeah, and you know, like it's true when it's all coming from the head. You know, the boss is the idea of the business, and my business was not very much of a business. It was just a very busy place, and I was not profitable. So I got sued from my neighbor because of the noise.
Oh.
And the reason is that, you know, the actual apartments above was in the same lease. And just before I got in, they separate the lease to make more money, right? And we were in a very popular area, but because of the prices and because it was becoming more and more en vogue, you had people from, you know, less modest societies coming over and settle down. So he had his family. He was a lawyer, and sued me, basically. So that put a lot of strain on my business, and I got shut down for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then more, and then it just sounded the end of it. So I was like, I was working not 24 hours, but I was working 7 days a week. I literally, you know, the beauty of France and tax, I was working, I calculated from January to June, only for for France, basically.
Government, yes, the taxes.
Yeah, the government.
Absolutely.
Then I was working from July to maybe November, you know, like almost end of October, November, for all the expenses, you know, the operation, operating the business.
So just 1 month for yourself.
Yeah, so 1 month now for myself, which of course, I was being taxed as well. So yes. working every day for that got me burned out again. And you know, like whether it was for recruitment, for systems.
How long did you keep that alive?
About 3.5 years.
Oh, wow.
So I exceeded that business. You know, I got basically my money back, and you know, I just paid all the debts that I had and everything. And in the end, I was good. Like, this was actually one of the most amazing experience to learn. You know, having so many responsibility when you're not disciplined and responsible, I can tell you it's a challenge. So that was that. And but that took a toll. You know, I had to liquidate my house. I had to lose my car, and you know, all the comfort that I had to give that away. And funny thing is, I met on one of those dating apps, very few new version as well. I met a girl that was living in the UK, which I knew, of course, which is Chinese, right? And turns out, you know, after 2 or 3 weeks dating her, that she's a very big daughter in a very big company in China. So, you know, very wealthy, had 2 major companies in 2 different industries. One was a real estate developer, parents, and the other one was like a convenience store chain in a Yunnan region.
Was that anything to do with Evergrande?
Oh no.
I'm just being silly. Don't mind me. Don't mind me.
Well, for me, it was like a ticket to see something else and move on. And so I grabbed that ticket. Yeah, and I went.
So that's how you met her. Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
and that's how I happened to go to China in the first place. So that was 2014.
Wow, we're gonna talk about that in a moment. As I told you, you have had quite a journey. We can do an entire podcast here, me, but let's move forward. We're gonna hold that thought for a moment. We're gonna unpack that in a moment. But now, let me ask you a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know you as a person. Ready?
Sure.
All right. Tell us, Baptiste, what makes you happy as a person?
To improve myself every day and make an impact.
Beautiful. What makes you smile?
Stupid things, humanity makes me smile.
What makes your heart and your soul come alive?
Yeah. Again, knowing that I've worked hard for something that, no matter what circumstances, no matter what the odds, no matter what people say, shut the noise, make it happen, and just contemplate. That fires me up.
Love that. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
Well, I mean, most recently, what makes me the saddest is Ukraine and Russia war.
Yes.
It's real and it is catastrophic. It's the worst ever in the human condition. That makes me really, really sad.
I agree with it. I can relate to that because I was born in a country that was torn by war, Afghanistan, but I was blessed enough that my family was able to leave early on. I was 3 years old, didn't experience any of that, and we moved to France, but that's another story. But yes, I can totally resonate with that. Yes, all of our thought and prayers are with people in Ukraine, and all over the world is affected with wars.
Yeah, and like also the Russian parents that didn't choose to send their sons get killed.
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
Either way, Russia is a great country. Ukraine is a great country. There's no reason for war, and it's just
Especially when in every family in that region, you have half the family that's Russian, half the family is Ukrainian. It's like fighting your brothers and sisters, your cousins.
Yeah,
it's like what happened in Yugoslavia. Like you were fighting your brother, your uncle, your sister, and that destroyed the country back then 20 years ago.
And I can understand, I'm not going to do politics, but I can understand both sides got some flames here. But it just doesn't never justify the egos or power of either side, never justify war. Totally. They're not the one dying. So that makes me very sad.
Absolutely. I totally on you with this. Now, what scares you?
Nothing.
Not even spiders?
No.
Okay. Awesome. Now, what would you say is your number one personal superpower?
My superpower, I would say, is people. I love to engage with people. Now, I'm a bit of a alternative extrovert, introvert. Okay. So, like next week, I'm gonna go to Prosper, and Fortunet's gonna have a booth over there, and I invite everybody to come and meet me, and I'm just really excited about all that. Once everything's done, it takes me a few days to recover, and I like to have my peace and tranquility. So that's about it.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about that in a moment because that's going to be amazing, especially in one of the most.
People really is where my superpower, making connecting people together, try to help. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Now, let's move forward. Let's talk about something that we both love, traveling. Tell us, Baptiste, what was the very first trip you took?
I don't remember. That's a funny question.
If there's a trip that you will always remember, one that is memorable, you want to share with us?
I guess the first trip outside of Europe was a memorable one. It was in Thailand, and it was probably the biggest cultural shock. That was 2007.
Oh yeah, I love Thailand. Can't wait to go back. Yes. Now, let me take you down a different type of traveling, down memory line. Go back to when you were a young boy. When we're kids, people around us, family, friends, teachers, relatives, always ask us, so Baptiste, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your answer as a young boy?
Yeah, so I wanted to be a doctor for animals.
Oh, wow. Okay. Did you have any pets growing up?
Yeah, I did. I like, oh my God, I forgot how many. Like, I
A
would
mini
always,
zoo?
yeah. So my grandparents actually, they were breeding horses.
Oh,
They
wow.
were in the horse racing business. So
Beautiful.
very early, I've been sitting on horses, and there was
Wow.
always dogs running around the stables, and my other grandparents had dogs, and I think we had 3 cats at home, some turtles. There's always been some pets around me.
Nice. Awesome. Now, you mentioned that you were good in school. You loved school. What was your favorite subject in school?
Well, actually, I wasn't very good because I never really worked.
Yeah.
You know, but my favorite subject, it's kind of funny, and I think it says a lot about the type of person I am with other
Mhm.
people. I was the best, and my favorite the subject was when I got along with the teacher, I would become one of the very best of the class.
Oh, regardless of the subject.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
crazy, and it's all over my grades. From one year I was the best in French, then I was in mathematics, then in science, whatever. There was always one that would understand me more than others, and I would give my everything. So I guess it goes a long way to make connections with people.
I guess your teachers and your parents were completely stumbled because how can you have such a like a yo-yo type of journey in your one year you have a top of the class, next year just barely passing. So what happened? And then back to this. I'm sure you must have had those conversations with them.
Yeah, it would make no sense to anybody. So very, very dumbfounded. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Now, what was this? The one? Okay, no. Was there any subject you could not stand in school?
No, I think
No.
everything is interesting if you have a passion for it.
All right. Now, what was your very first job?
My first job was my actually no, my first job was selling. I was selling some jewelry for my mom, which had a store, and there was some not trade shows, but every now and again an event where you were allowed to get your stuff out, and do some discounts, and I don't know
Mhm.
how to call that. So she hired me to hold the stand while she was going to talk, women.
Oh,
But
wow.
no, 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 and that's how I made my first few sales. I was very proud.
Awesome. Because there's a lot of, similarities between seduction and selling. It's everything in life is about, seduction and sales. You have to sell yourself every time.
But I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Now, there's a saying that I'm sure you heard that says, change your story, change your life. And by story, I mean what we keep on telling ourselves on a daily basis inside our head. So when you, Baptiste, had to change your story at some point to either change your life or bring your life to where you want it to be, how did you do it? Was it to the help of friends, families, mentors, books? Tell us a process you used to change your story to change your life.
That's a very touchy question. So I didn't want to bore or put everyone in darkness, but there was some very dark time in my life where I had to rewrite the story entirely. What I did is that was after my second business, the bar. So what I did is I just erased my Facebook account. I erased all my numbers in my phone. Well, just change them, whatever. And I stopped seeing, or I was seeing just a few of my family members, and very very cherry picked a couple of friends. So I wanted to start it fresh. I didn't know what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. So I just needed to change influences. So and I didn't read any books at the time. So the very first instinctive, sort of how do I change my life sort of question was to start fresh. You know, whatever's putting too much pressure and makes you doubt about yourself, you need to put that behind. Like even if temporarily, because it's always going to be inside of you. You can only hide underground the problems that you try to leave behind. At some point, you're going to have to face them, but that's good. if you want to take a leap forward, you need to put that behind at least temporarily. And that's what I did. Then I guess I needed some help. I was in a point in my life with I was really that close to just switch off the lights, to give that sort of metaphor, and I knew that I needed a professional to help me. So I went into some form of therapy. Very soft. I met that lady. She was part of the neighborhood, so we had chat like when I was going to buy my bread. Turns out she was something like a therapist. And so I booked in, and I thought she was very good. She didn't know anything about me. She was no judgmental. And I felt like I couldn't move forward because I was crippled with so much weight on my shoulder. So it felt good to have somebody take one rock at a time, and just so that I could move again. And I believe that so many people don't necessarily understand the value of having someone that is not your friend, not your family, not your work environment, to try and help. Even if they don't care, if it's a place for you to just spill your venom and not be bitter, because you can't go forward if you're a victim and if you're bitter. That's it. And so for me, it's been one of the greatest things I did, and it was the kickstart of everything that's happened in the last 10 years, basically.
Beautiful. Wow. Awesome. Now, let's move forward. Let's talk about your business. Tell us what impact you're having on the world. What are you doing now?
Right. So my business is not my own business. I actually traded my business for a job, which is a job at Fortunet. And we are an investment banking firm, and we help, people of the e-commerce, business owners, 7-8 figure businesses to plan and negotiate and present their business for an exit. And we've had a lot of success during those past 3 years. So, we were founded in 2018. And we're one of the first investment banking, firm of its kind in the sector. And we specialize, like I said, in the sales of medium to large e-commerce businesses that comprehend Amazon FBA brands or businesses, SaaS, softwares, but also agencies, marketing agencies or other service providers. And we get really a high result for that.
So wait a second, 1 second.
Yep.
So are you helping Amazon brands to have an exit, or also helping Amazon agencies as well?
We do agencies, we do softwares,
okay.
and we do Amazon businesses. Any e-commerce business that is planning for an exit, we facilitate that process, and with a focus on Amazon FBA businesses. In 3 years, we've sold the major part is Amazon FBA businesses, and we were able to get 30 to 60% more money for those guys based on the deals that we've done after they had an offer from aggregators or certain buyers. They came to see us to say, well, we think we should get more, or we came in touch with them and we said, well, it looks like you could get more. And we were able, after, guiding them through our highly orchestrated process to actually get that much, sometimes even double the offer they got. Yeah, like our best stories are like crazy, honestly. We did about 70 plus exits so far in about 3 years. Yeah.
So you guys exclusively focus on Amazon businesses. Are you also helping non-Amazon businesses like agencies or even service providers that are building a service business? Do you guys have a plan to expand and help those businesses as well?
Again, we are really interested to serve that purpose, and our process works across industries, because we didn't invent anything. This process is very much the same bank like Morgan Stanley would do. Mm-hmm. The team is also the crown jewel of Fortunet, because Our co-founder, Michal, Yael is the other one. Our co-founder, Michal, has got about 25 years plus experience in traditional corporate finance, M&A projects. She actually, headed the project for multiple IPOs on the NASDAQ. So those are a degree of professionalism, that is a highly profile, and so not only our other co-founder Yael has been in e-commerce law for a while. She's been helping Amazon sellers since 2015 with another firm, which is Kabili & Co. And she's worked with over 6,000 Amazon sellers to this date. So I can tell you, like, for everything suspension, trademarks, anything law related, she will help entrepreneurs. So back to your question, we're really focusing on Amazon because it's where the market right now, the acquisition market, is at. But we actually have seen very big deals for agencies and softwares, and we're actually currently managing some. So this is definitely part of what we do. Now, like I said, our focus is on Amazon. Even for the softwares and the agencies, it's all revolving around Amazon.
Awesome. The reason I'm asking is because maybe not now, but in the future, I just, I have a podcasting agency. I help businesses not only launch their podcast, but also help them get paid clients to their podcast. So again, do you think is that something that can be maybe in a year or 2 or 3 years down the road attractive for buyers?
Well, again, I think yes, and we do always give people our kind opinion. It's always nice to have professionals of M&A discussing this type of opportunities without having a clear look into your sales, into your because let's just stop for a while, just pause and say, when sellers go to China or to buy products to sell on Amazon or other platforms, what they're looking at is for the best quality products, with the minimum price as possible, right? So when a buyers come in the market, it's just pretty much like that. Also, another good comparison would be, if you buy a house or sell a house, what would the buyer of a house want? He wants a nice location, close to transport, shops, whatever, that brings value for the minimum price as possible, and hopefully it will appreciate that asset over time. So for any type of business, there will be a market if you're generating sales, and not talking exactly for the software, but for Amazon FBA business for sure, and you need to have a certain momentum. Like year-on-year growth, year-on-year sales, year-on-year profit that is appealing. Otherwise, you might be able to list your business. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to find a business acquirer.
So, and getting back to the Amazon businesses out there that you guys help, do you guys specialize in a specific niche, like say products and brands that are say in health and beauty or kids or clothing or kitchen? Do you specialize in any specific niche, or as long as the Amazon products, you guys take them on?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's we don't specify. We're not specializing in a specific niche.
Okay.
This would be the conversation some aggregators have. For us, we're just on the sales side. So we represent, we guide, we consult, and we market the business, and we present it to the marketplace, to the acquisition market. So there's no categories we would not look at, and every business is different. Now, does the market respond to specific categories? The answer is yes. So let me take 3 examples. The first example that, Fortunet has actually conducted a survey, which is accessible online on our website and also on Business Insider, where it was published. And it clearly shows out of 50 aggregators or a bit less, the main actors of the market clearly shows they're interested in certain categories versus others. And the reason is, first of all, like if you've got a product, let's say for an iPhone, you need a cover. Well, the iPhone next generation is going to be in at least minimum 2 years time, right? You might have a middle variation like a S or whatever, but that means basically your product that you sell on Amazon, your listing is going to have to be changed. You're going to need a new product to sell as well.
A short life cycle. Yes.
Exactly. So life cycle is a big one. The other one, so electronics as well, because electronics, there's a lot of returns, sometimes there's a lot of liability. So everything that makes it complicated would be a category. Risk is a factor, complications are factors. There's an area of factors that we look into, and also buyers to see if they're interested or not. So let me just give you like based on the survey, what are the categories that do the best? So home and garden, like in the question, which Amazon categories are you the most interested in? They selected 3 to 5 choices, and the first one coming is home and garden. The next one for 88% of the survey people, then paid supplies, 79%, baby products, 77%, outdoors, 74%, just as well as health and personal care. Then the next one is tools, home improvements, 62%, sports, beauty, toy and games, office products, and then we're going down. The ones that have 0 answers are cell phone accessories, cameras and photo, watches, books, videos, Blu-ray, etc., sports collectibles. Just because at scale, like if you're an aggregator, if you've got 100 brands, how are you going to scale those categories? It's very hard. It's very complicated. Still, if a business has made an amazing job, there's always going to be, I think, if the risk is, if the brand is good, if there's a criteria for interest, there's always going to be someone to buy, and preparing that make the business appealing, is kind of what we help seller with before, like what we call a pre-sale. We consult with them before they're ready to sell, and we work as far as 12 to 15 months with sellers to get them ready and get the absolute best multiples. So we do have a reputation, and that's the survey. You can check it online, but we among sellers, we now have a reputation that Fortunet is known to represent the highest quality of businesses and obtaining the best possible multiples, as well as the best deal structure, which is very important. And among buyers, even though we don't work for buyers, we do, based on the deals we do negotiate with them and know them for quite some times now. So we have the largest deal flow. We're known from buyers to have the largest deal flow, preparing the most professional decks. So, the marketing material that will tell you the intrinsic value of the business. As a result, they can take decisions much faster, and they know they can rely on our analyze and business, professionalism to trust those figures. There's not going to be any surprise. So that's how. Yep.
So you guys do not buy the business. You guys just connect them to potential buyers. You just help them be attractive, help them with their deck and all that. And then you guys introduce them to potential buyers, right?
Yes. So, okay, I was going to get to that. So our process, again, we have not invented this process, but we do there's 3 steps. The first step, we do a full P&L recreation, full financial recreation. What that consists of, we dive in your business, we audit your business, we go everywhere, and we're going to recreate that strong financial report, the profit and loss, right? Based on that, what we've seen, we also want to add to your profit what we call add backs, the so-called add backs. What is an add back is anything that's being spent, an expense during the last 12 months that is not necessarily something that the buyer would spend in the coming years.
One sec. So in that case, do you also play the role of maybe a consultant, helping them? Hey, this is what you can do to further scale your business, make it more profitable, more attractive. Maybe you can add this product to your line. Just consulting to make them more appealing. Do you guys do that as well, or?
So, like I said, in the team, we've got like ex-Amazon sellers, we've got CPAs, we've got M&A, active for like over decades, 2 decades for some. We do have a great insight to provide sellers. However, what we don't do is give consulting like an Amazon business
I'll
consulting.
buy this, get this.
Don't do that.
Mm.
We really specialize on that 3-step process. You know, there's a matter of doing one thing and doing it correctly, and also there's a matter of how do you say, conflict of interest as well. You can't do everything when you bear the responsibilities we do.
Absolutely.
So back to your question, though, we don't just list the business, and that's why I was explaining in the process. We really do the full financial recreation so that we can find as much profit as possible. When a buyer for an Amazon FBA business, when a buyer buys a business, is based on the SDE or EBITDA. SDE stands for seller discretionary earnings. And it's more it's more fitting to the single entrepreneur business model, right? Versus EBITDA, which is earning before tax, depreciation. I never know the order. I'm sorry. EBITDA is just very easy to say. So that is more on a level of larger company, and it doesn't give as much latitude to get those add backs actually. So SD is more, is the standard, based on that SDE, there's a multiple, and the SDE times the multiple plus inventory is the formula for an exit. So when a dollar brings you back 4, 5, 6, 7, depending on your business categories, etc., performances, you want to make sure you count all your profit, right? And so that's why it's so important, that first step process, that diving and get as much value for your business, for your efforts. I'm going to take you an example for add backs, and I'll just lead to that because there's just so many. Let's say you don't want to run out of inventory, and you're using air freight, which is a bit more expensive, right? But essentially, you've used it once, perhaps twice during the last 12 months, just because there were some issues with supply chains. We all know what happened last year, and still to these days. And so you didn't want to lose rank, etc. So you took the decision to use air freight. Well, that's an add back, because we'll negotiate based on that profit we find. We'll say, hey, you as a company, with your size, with your experience, you shouldn't go into those problems. Maybe you should plan. You have like an inventory manager. You can plan ahead. You've got a lot more resource for this not to happen, if that makes sense. So based on that, we find add backs and we bring back to the profit, which makes a better exit. Now, the second step, if you don't have a story to present, buyers do not trust you. They don't know you. They don't know what your business is doing. So the story is not just a fabulation story. It's okay. When did your business start, and what's going to do in the future? What is right now and what's going to do? So it's really a link between past and future, and you need to explain that with numbers, with market analysis, and being able to provide the buyers with an exciting story. If they pick up the thing and they see there's just so many things that are complicated. So we build a marketing deck, a pitch deck of 45, 60 slides that are precisely doing this. It gives the intrinsic value right now, what's been happening before, what's going to happen, what we project for the future. And that gives a really good insight for buyers to position themselves very quickly. And the more exciting it is, the more exciting that story is, the more interest there is in the marketplace, which leads us to the third step. And this is crucial. It might sound simple, but you would be surprised how many people just overlook this. An auction. When you go on an auction, Sotheby's or stuff like that, you don't see one share in the middle of the room, right? There's 100 share, so that they compete, buyers compete for one price. And that guarantees you, if there's enough interest, that you will get a very, like, the right valuation. The market's going to dictate the valuation. It's not like many brokers where, you sort of give the value upfront. This is what your business worth based on that, based on the industry. We're going to list it for this price and see, like a house who's going to be happy for it. And then we'll negotiate off of that. No, the competitive process, what we call silent auction, because no one knows who's in the room, it is bringing that interest from that story to discussion, to negotiation. And based on what buyers are willing to pay, we'll talk with the most interesting profiles. So our sellers, our clients, are always in control of the narrative. And that's why, in essence, Fortunet started to exist. Before, when it started in 2017, it's older than this, but when it started to take momentum with the Thrashios and Elevate and all the rest now, when it started to gain traction, we would see discrepancies between Harvard, Stanton, and Yale's University MBAs, literally those type of profiles with great experience in M&A, data set as long as my arm, going into negotiation with the mom and pops, or young business entrepreneurs that have experienced great experience in Amazon, but have zero experience selling a business. And those discrepancy would just, and there's a gray area with this in the industry. So I will not just go too far with that, but I'll just say this: Fortunet essentially is rebalancing that power and actually overweight
the gap. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Providing that expertise of helping those Amazon sellers that are good at what they're doing, but have little experience in terms of selling. They help them to bring the expertise to make that a level playing field, so they don't get taken for a ride by expert, that are in M&As and all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Now, wow, so many questions I can ask, but let me see what would be a good question to ask you now. So you guys are. What was the question I wanted to ask? Okay. What would you say is your ideal avatar client?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, like I said, Fortunet is really specializing on I would say, the most advanced. Why? Just because, again, we believe that, going into market needs to be done in a certain way. You will not get as much value for your business if you're not ready. You will not get as much value, as much multiple.
Sorry, Baptiste, expand, please. Yep. What does it mean to be ready?
Okay, yeah. So having a business ready and having a business not ready. Okay, so you're not ready when, let's say, you started the business and you have like $20,000 in sales. And you haven't optimized your keywords. Basically, your business is just far from being ready to exit. Like, being ready is being able to check the boxes, as much boxes as possible, in the buyer's mind. What do the buyer want? So this, what created this market, is the buyer. So you can have a political view on buyers and what they do with your legacies and stuff after that. But really, what sellers are trying to do, right, is thinking, okay, I've reached a certain capacity where, and that's why your business is ready. I reached a certain capacity where I know that in order to grow from where I am right now, I'm going to have to invest in a team. Like, I can't afford, if I want to stay competitive, to stay on my own with 3-4 VAs, or with my wife, or with my friend, whatever. I really need to invest into development. So that's going to take a toll on profit, and it's shaky. So there's a higher risk to grow if you want to break through 8 figures, 20, 50 millions, or even 9 figures, which is the case sometimes. So I would say a business is ready when you reach that capacity, understanding where's your capacity, what's the cost in terms of resource, time, whatever, to go to the next level. What we've seen, and I think other companies have been very public about this, is that between $1 and $5 million revenue, many entrepreneurs that are in this model are struggling to get to the next one. And there's a reason for it. It's because most get into that vibe where they think they figured it out, they got it going, and they stop investing in improvements, in innovation, in going forward, and that's what cripples them, and then they lose momentum. I heard one of our competitors once saying, I think he's very right, so there's only two times to sell your business: when it's ready or when nobody wants it. And that's the reality. So what you want when you sell the business is show maybe, like 2 or 3 years would be a good, 3 years is like kind of the sweet spot, 3 to 5 years. And you should great momentum, great growth from year 1, 2, 3 without stopping. Now, 2021 has been pretty tough on many people. There was that massive COVID bump on 2020, and then the counter cut on 2021. So what we do and what buyers do, they sort of level it up between those 2 years, or even just scratch 2020, so that from 19 to 21, you can see that growth curve, which is normal, right? And you can see those sales on Amazon. There's been a big, like people were saying, like, yeah, e-commerce has gained 10 years in 1 year, which is not really accurate. And also now you can see with the stats from marketpulse.com that the stat actually just evened out. So the growth maintains the same level of growth, but the 2020 was an exception due to COVID. Really. So when you get that momentum, when you get that growth, constant growth, and you've got a good story, like I said. And in capacity, again, like, there's always a risk following and growing a business, like I used to say, there's Mark Zuckerberg type of profile and the other ones. The Mark Zuckerberg, no matter what the rain is, the sun, whatever the weather, they'll just keep on going. And they have the stamina to take it to wherever, and they're the builders. The other ones are more the entrepreneurs, which will take the opportunity, maybe like you said earlier, between each other, rinse and repeat, right? They will get for a minimum amount of money, investment, time, resources, they will get a business to a certain point where they hit that maximum opportunity window. They will make a 7x, 8x on their business because they crushed it. And they will say, well, right now with that money, I'll take that money. I'll, take money off the table, improve my lifestyle, improve my capacity, and maybe reinvest into different opportunities and grow like this, because they've got a vision over many, many decades, and it's a great model, and you can rinse and repeat. So there's really the two kinds of profiles. I would say you're not ready when you have not reached that capacity where everything's optimized for your SKUs, where you're wondering whether Shopify is a good opportunity or not. Today, from the deals we've seen, we see that Shopify is amazing if you've done it correctly already. Like thinking, okay, if my expansion plans is to go on Shopify and not being dependent on Amazon right now, I would say it's not very relevant if you want to exit. If you want to grow a business forever, maybe, it takes time to master SEO and outside of Amazon sales. And most likely, if it brings you 30% of your revenue, you've done it very good. So roughly, all those people invest in social media, etc., not necessarily in the right way, lots of trial and errors, and they spend a lot of time and a lot of their attention, which is probably like the two most valuable resources for a business person, in things that are not ROI positive. Whereas if you just focus on your winning products, if you optimize really as much as you can the keywords, how many variation can you launch out of that product? That's not going to cost you anything but a change of color, right? that's essentially is going to cost a minimal amount of money, investment for a maximum ROI. That's what people should focus on to get ready. Now it's the same. And I should pause a little bit and ask you if you've got any question, but it's basically the same. It's like the real question is, why did I know a decline? You know, and a lot of business have known a great expansion because of that COVID bump. They didn't really make the brand. They didn't really build that connection with an audience, you know. And so I think you should build a brand to sell only if you want to fail.
Oh, expand on that. What do you mean?
What I mean is this, is like, if you build a brand to bring value to your audience, that's the best brand that will sell.
Absolutely.
If you bring, unless you've got a lot of experience and you've done it before and you know exactly the roadmap, which is back to what I'm going to say now. If you build to bring value to your audience, build a strong IP, do some trademark, you know, across the board to protect that IP. If you do some patents, basically, if you bring that much value, you will be able to crush your exit and build a legacy that's likely not gonna fall out. Yeah, yeah, I think you know the results in some products. If your product is just another one, you know, and if you just were early, then someone is gonna come, mostly from China, with a lot more, you know, price war, etc., and you're gonna lose your badges, you're gonna lose your momentum. Yeah, you always got to be trying to improve what you have and what worked before the people come in and try to challenge you.
Of course, you're looking more not just products, but more like brands. You have to have proper branding around it and all that. You mentioned story, because story is everything. People buy stories, you know, so that's very important, especially nowadays with all you mentioned, the competition from China and all that, because we cannot compete with them, you know, and the only way that we can set ourselves apart is through having a branding, a story, and all that. So yeah, that's important. Now,
I think the branding on Amazon, just to touch on this point,
yeah,
and give my personal opinion, which is very humble, you know.
Absolutely.
Branding is nothing like outside in retail, etc., where branding is almost everything.
Yes.
You know, people do not go on Amazon to look for brands, but they look for, like you say, a story, something authentic.
Professionalism and all that. Yes.
So, you know, make sure first, everyone say that since 5 years I've been in the game, you know, like everyone said it, but make sure you've got a great product. You know, if you don't design them, make sure the variation that you bring are really important and can last and can own it. You know, make a great experience for your customer. And that goes very well with Jeff Bezos and Amazon's vision. So that's the branding you need to focus on if you're doing Amazon, not so much of a logo, not so much, you know, at the end, that doesn't matter much. But the customer's experience, yeah, for a good product.
I agree totally. Now, tell us, what is Fortunet's irresistible offer? What sets you guys apart from all the other similar competitors? For example, if someone is looking to sell their business, why should they go with you guys and not with all the other companies that are doing the same thing?
Well, that's a great question, and I will answer in twofold. Sorry, I was doing too much.
Sure, no, love that.
So I would say, first off, and it's biased, but the results show, based on the deals we've made and the industry, you will always get better results, and not just focus on Amazon. Go ask people around, exceed it. If you go on your own, it's just like you sell your house on your own. You'll get certain buyers that are not necessarily the best profile. You'll be sloppy, even if you know well. You basically don't have the capacity, or you shouldn't think you have the capacity to run your business unless you really work outside your business. It's just rolling. You know, I don't want to say don't, but unless you're very versed in corporate finance, that you know about M&A, that you've been doing it before, I would not recommend to sell with anybody on their own. So get professional on your side, whether it's brokers, which is not exactly what we do, whether it's lawyers and especially accountants. You need A players on your team if you want to maximize your chance of exit, right? So whoever, competitors or not, don't go on your own unless you've done it 10 times. That's my first advice. Then second of all, like, why should people want to work with us over competitors? First, we're not brokers. I mean, people call us agent brokers, which is fine. But essentially our job, like I said, during the process, our process is a little different. What we don't do is just list on our website, list, in our private
so you're
network.
not just like empire flippers, you're just more than that.
So I don't want to give names, I think
No, and I respect these guys because I met Joe and Justin. They're doing amazing jobs. Yeah. I know them. So that's the first thing just came to mind because they're probably the biggest name in the game. That's why nothing against them. I actually love what you're doing. But yeah.
and again, we don't do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So therefore we don't really cater for the same people. Mm-hmm. So we are known to get the best multiples. And why we get the best multiples? Because we work for it. I should really ask the team to record how many hours of negotiation. So when we negotiate with buyers, again, our network of buyers is about 200. Out of what we present, maybe 20, 40 is going to be interested with that deal. Then we start the negotiation. There's not just one talks, but several rounds, and then they become smaller each time. But each time we go with the team, we engage. First, if you're on your own, that might just turn into a full-time job, right? Typically, brokers don't do that. They don't go as much as deep into a conversation. They do a minimal transactional accompaniment or guiding.
Do you coach your clients to, this is what you should say, this is what you should emphasize on the calls, or do you even attend the calls with them and when they're talking to potential buyers?
Coach is really the good word. Guide, coach, we help the preparation. Mm-hmm. And then we are building that to maximize the strengths and present the liabilities, the weaknesses of a business in a way that is very understandable, with like contingency planning to what's going to be in the future, what's being done. Like if you're not ready to sell your business, we will tell you. Another thing, that to answer directly your question, we don't actually work on retainers, where like 2 or 3 of our competitors doing very similar things that we do will work on a retainer. So if the due diligence is lasting, price should not be a big factor, but it is. So if your exit, like my friend from Estonia did with a competitor of us, lasted 12 months, $3,000 a month for retainer. $6,000, yeah. It is what it is, in the end. I think she had a great exit and she don't regret to have used them. I think for the next one, she might come to us now because I think it'll be simpler, but at the end, it makes a difference. So we only get paid when the seller get paid and how he get paid. So that motivates us to get the absolute best if we want to get paid the best prices as well. All right. So we're flexible on the, we've got a very specific schedule. We take from 5 to 10% commission, and people like you mentioned sometimes get to 15. But anyway, what makes us special is the way that we do things. It's our DNA, it's our team, the wealth of expertise we have in team on different aspects of Amazon makes a holistic approach to exit. The fact that we care and that we respond, I wouldn't say 24/7, but we create specific WhatsApp with clients where we're live with them. If they have a question about law, they get answered. If they have a question about suspension, they get answered. If they have a question about accounting, they get answered. If they have a question about what is the current state of the negotiation, they get answered. I mean, it's just like a real relationship where a specific team is going to be with the sellers all the way. We guide them, we coach them, we take control of the narrative, we negotiate for them, because you know what? There's that story we had, like 1 hour before the term, 1 hour before the day, we receive an email saying from the buyers, well, we want to renegotiate that. It's going to be like 4% less from the SDE. And the reason they were giving is just because we can. That's how we want to negotiate. So we actually went from the next buyer. So we will do everything to secure your position in a negotiation. It's not something that when you get bullied in a transaction, it's not something that you always can feel prepared as a person, as an entrepreneur. So we'll make sure, because we do that all day, to do that for our clients.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So tell us now, what is your position? What is your responsibility in that? Do you focus on mainly helping, say, for example, the French-speaking business e-commerce sellers, or do you just help anyone? So tell us, what is your exact role in that company?
Right. So I'm a director of business development.
Mm-hmm.
My responsibilities is to promote Fortunet, of course, to sellers. We are always looking for people that are interested to sell their business, but also, I guess, a huge part of our discussion covers some of what we talked, try to give an indication, a high level perspective on what sellers should expect for that transaction and before that transaction. Basically business development, also with the creative partnerships, events. That's kind of my responsibility. So my VP Jake is my direct boss, and then Yael. We work in the same team. So Jake would take the lead of the sales and direction on how we do things. So that's how we work at Fortunet. There's also another director in the team, which is Mark Jennings in the UK, doing an amazing job. There's Regina Peterburski from Australia doing an amazing job. So essentially, we try to educate people, we try to build bridges, and we try to make their exit a lot more valuable, and let them understand how much value working with an investment bank can bring their exit. You know what? I'm just going to throw that at you guys. 50% at least or more of the earnings in a seller's business will happen the day they sell. So to give some perspective, let's just take $1 million exit, right? So on that $1 million, you're going to get taxed. Maybe 30% of it's just going to disappear in tax. Let's just take that as an example. Could be less, could be more, depending where you are. But now you're left with $600K, all right, dollars. And so with the fees, with the percentage, broker, whatever, that 600. If your business was made like pretty much some of the business we see, the first year, you didn't take any earnings because you're investing in your business. You actually bring a lot in and you don't take much out. The next year, you might take 50,000. All right, let's say 50,000. The year after, you take 100,000. The third, year 3, you're 150,000. Year 4, you're exiting. So that earnings is just going to be taken as a reference. You're not going to take anything out, right? So based on the year 1, 2, 3, 4, right? The total earnings you got from those 4 years is less than what you get in your pocket the day you exit. So it's really important.
Do you guys coach people?
Really important that you focus on it.
Yeah, you mentioned something key, which is taxes. Do you also coach people on tax optimization strategies as to, hey, register your business in this country so that you can minimize your taxes in a legal way? Do you help them with that? Or that's something that's up to them? All right. So I was saying, do you guys also coach and help people and guide and counsel on tax optimization strategies when it comes to selling? So, for example, if they're, the company is registered in a country that's going to tax them, say like in France, 50%, for example, do you tell them, hey, before selling, maybe you should, incorporate in a different country, whatever, where you have a more attractive tax rate? Do you help them with that as well, or that's strictly that's up to them to do it?
No, we don't consult in a way that we don't provide a professional advice as a service according to that. Now, that being said, we're not a one-stop shop. We really focus on the exit, the sale process. That's what we do. That's what we're good at. Now, we work and we engage on a daily basis with all the actors that a seller is going to need to exit property. I'm talking again, accountants, different firms for different size specificities. A lawyer and a tax lawyer is very important. Back to my first advice: get the best on your team, A+ players, and make sure tax is one of the overlooked, just as much as the exit is overlooked while you're doing the exit tax optimization. But the reality is this: is if you don't think about that 2 years prior to exit, you're putting yourself in a very hard situation.
Sure.
So the best way is to envision your exit as early as possible, know how to maximize the value, to have the maximum money in your pocket before you even get into business, but at least 2 years, because there's certain things you will never be able to do in 6 months, like changing incorporation. If you're incorporated in Los Angeles, you're in one of the highest tax-paying state in the USA, versus in Texas. So if you move to Texas or Delaware or Florida, it's going to be less. Now, if you want to, I'm not giving any advice here. I'm not, saying that you should. But if you look on the internet very quickly, you're going to understand. Like if you go to Puerto Rico, which is the, part of, it's got like treaties with America. It's actually part of America. That, according to people that's been there living for 6 months, then there's no capital gain tax. So is that something you want to do? Well, if you've got to be moving everything over there, and leave 6 months, maybe it's not for you. But there's all sort of things from the US or outside the US or in Europe that you can do. We have those conversations very regularly. We know who's doing well to consult, and we can address you to them. We can make that connection.
Awesome. Wow. Wonderful. This is a fascinating topic. We could talk for hours and there's so many more questions, but let's start wrapping things up. So I'm going to ask you now a series of rapid fire questions. So what would you say is a cause? This is basically the theme of this podcast: building businesses with a cause, with a purpose, with a heart, doing good around us. So what would you say for you, Baptiste, is a cause that you're deeply passionate about?
What I'm deeply passionate about, again,
as a cause.
As a cause, well, you mean like external cause? As a
cause, for example, giving back, doing good, something that you're passionate about. Like, for example, for me, each time I get a new client, I sponsor a year of access to education and sports to underprivileged kids in India, for example. Like giving back, building a business with a heart. This is the title of this podcast: Leaders with a Heart, Building Impactful Businesses.
Yeah. So, I don't want to poop on anybody. I think it's just really personal. On my side, my cause is that I know I can't solve world's misery. I can't solve world's hunger. And if I don't make sure my bed is made correctly, I help myself first, I will never be able to help people. Right. So I will say just this. And I feel very shy to publicize, because I take pride not to talk about it, not having people looking at it. But every month, out of my salary, there's a good 5 to 10% that goes to some people, let's say.
Beautiful.
And it's not just to make me feel good. I don't want to thank you. I don't want to have someone with a video watching who I'm giving it to. Usually it's people in the street. And it's just the day I decide to do it, the first 2 or 3 person in a row that I see in need will get it. And why? It doesn't matter if they are trying to not work or if they're squatting or whatever. The matter is I see people that have a life that doesn't seem very sexy and probably less fortunate than I am. So I'm just going to.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Awesome. Now, let me now ask you a series of rapid fire questions on advices. What would you say has been so far the best piece of advice you received in your life?
Never give up.
Yeah, indeed. Simple, but so powerful.
Just never give up. Don't give up on your dreams.
Totally. Now, on the other side, what would you say has been so far the worst piece of advice you've received in your life? Other than get a job.
Listen to me.
Sorry?
When someone said, listen to me.
Oh, yes.
Listen to me. Worst piece of advice. Don't listen to everybody. Listen to your heart. Go with your heart.
Love that. Now, if you're blessed with a time machine and you can go back in time and sit face to face with an 18-year-old Baptiste, what's the number one piece of advice you would give to him knowing all that you know now?
Yes, I never think about this type of question because there's something I can't change.
Yes.
You know, it's very important for me to only focus on the things that I can actively change or do something about. But I can see the gist of your question. And so my answer would be, again, it's just really boring. It's back to the same thing over and over again. But it's just like, dude, like, really don't wait for someone else's approval, love.
Yes.
You should never do things for others.
Yeah.
Be selfish. Fall in love with yourself. Fall in love with yourself and have the wildest dream. That's what I would say. And don't worry. When it's gonna be shit anyway. And sorry, I'm just being very
you're being
personal,
real. You're being real. Don't worry.
Yeah. It's just like, anyway, what's the strategy there? You know, trying to get outside your comfort zone and make crazy dream happen, or accept something that you know that's depressing. And you know, so whatever your dream or your whatever your life success is, because everyone has different success.
Totally.
Whatever the success you're chasing, just go for it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that, because you know, you said something powerful early on. You said you need to be selfish, and being by selfish you mean fall in love with yourself, because becoming the best version of yourself, that's not being selfish, actually becoming altruistic. Because if you're a loser, not able to do anything, you're not going to be of any value to society. But if you actually become successful, become the best version of yourself, then you can become an asset to people around you and to have an impact. So in that case, being selfish helps you to become that, to have a big impact.
But I want to be specific, because you know, all of this I found in books, and somehow after reading it or hearing it for too much, it just loses its power. So I want to be specific with that. Falling in love with yourself means, an example, when you meet somebody that is likable, agreeable, and you know, you're going to build some sort of attraction and you start something. If you know already that person is going to argue about you working, about basically, you know, you love that person already, you thinking about doing big things with her, but if that person is already threatening the original goal, then that means you don't love yourself enough, because no one should come and try to change who you are. You don't do that for other people. And if you are able to protect that, nothing can happen to you. I can guarantee that.
Beautiful. Awesome. Now, do you have your own podcast?
I do not.
What's the number one reason you haven't started your podcast?
I think I'm just not good for consistency for social media and all that stuff.
Awesome.
So,
all right.
That's it.
Now, let me ask you a question. Imagine that you had your podcast and you had a powerful podcast, popular. And imagine that today you have the most special guest in the world, which is yourself. You're interviewing yourself. What's the first question that you want to ask yourself?
That's a great one. I'll have to think about that.
What's the first one that comes to mind? Don't think too much, actually. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
How are you? Like, how are you doing? Like, just like any other conversation, it's like, how are you? How's it going?
What's your answer?
Are you happy? Well, you should be able to say, I'm well. I always like to answer, looking good, feeling great.
Awesome. Now, my favorite question to ask, and it's always the last question. What is this? What is the smallest thing you've done that has had the greatest positive impact in your life and business? And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing you've done. Like for me, for example, has been starting my podcast. What about you?
Yeah, focus. Forget about, that's something I keep struggling with, but it's the most simple thing to do, and it brings you the most results. Just focus on that one thing, on that one simple thing.
Yes.
Unless you master that thing, do not take anything else.
Love that.
Having a 10 bullet point list doesn't matter if you can't do that first one.
Exactly. Love that. Absolutely. Now, if someone wants to connect with you, Baptiste, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, you can connect with me anytime with my email, which is Baptiste, Baptiste, at fortunet.net. You can also catch me on Facebook and Instagram. I think the handle is at Brandstagram with a Z, or LinkedIn. I'm pretty visible.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about that. That was something you were doing. That was amazing. Brandstagram, I've been following your post on Facebook for the past year, and I was always wanting to ask you. We didn't even. Okay, we have to bring you back for part 2 in a few weeks.
That's for another episode, I'm afraid.
Oh yes, absolutely. There's so much more talking about China and all that. So yeah, We'll definitely have to do part 2 in a few weeks. But listen, Baptiste, I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your presence. Stay safe. Stay awesome, my friend. God bless you. Take care.
Hey, Payman, I just want to say this, Laurent. You're one of the person that really give your heart without counting ever. I'm very honored to be on your podcast. I think what you're doing is great, and you've got my full support. Reach out anytime, and your audience as well.
Merci. À bientôt.
Merci.
Salut.